So the first word problem is going to look at is common question. So the profit of a chocolate bar can be modeled by the equation P equals negative 0.3 n minus 7 squared plus 10.8, where P is the profit in thousands of dollars and N is the number of chocolates sold in thousands. I'm going to ask you a question, and that's the question that you should always ask yourself. What form is written in? Vertex, how many of you agree that it's vertex?
I'm going to agree with this part.
We need to agree that it is vertex because, remember, vertex form is y equals x minus h squared plus k. So if it looks like this, that means it is vertex form, right? You need to know what form it's in because we know that each form can give us something that we need, right? We know that vertex form gives us the vertex. Factored form gives us the zeros. Standard form gives us the y-intercept. So we need to know all the different forms. Now the question is asking you here, what is the coordinates of the vertex? Explain what it represents. So what is the coordinate of the vertex? 7 and 10.8. So 7 and 10.8. What do they represent in this scenario? Maximum profit. So remember that P is replacing the Y, so the profit is replacing the letter Y, and N, which is the number of chocolate, is replacing the letter X. Okay? So basically I have profit here, and I have the number of chocolate here. So, how many chocolate bars do you need to sell to get your maximum profit? How many chocolate bars do you need to sell to sell your maximum profit? 7 what? 7,000, because N is the number of chocolates sold in thousands. So that means you have to sell 7,000 chocolate bars, because remember, this is your X, technically this is your Y, which is in this case, this is the number of chocolate, this is your profit, right? X is on the horizontal, Y is on the vertical. In this case, we're replacing them with N and P, okay? So that means we have, or not we, 7,000 chocolate bar need to be sold to reach a maximum profit of what? How much is my profit? So 10.8 is your maximum, right? Times 1,000 because it's also in thousand. So it's going to be $10,800, right? 10.8 times 1,000. You can do it on the calculator if you want, right? To get your total price, okay? So what's going to happen here is you're going to have something that looks like this, right? I don't know if it's exactly like this, but it's going to look like this. At 7,000, you're going to have a maximum profit of 10.8 or 10,800. Okay? That's the whole scenario here.
What was the calculations you just heard?
I just basically, in order for me to find the profit, because it's 10.8, because it's in thousand, what I did is I did 10.8 times 1,000, and that gives me 10800. It's because the profit is in thousands. Okay? So if it's 1, that means it's 1,000. If it's 2, that means it's 2,000. If it's 10, it's 10,000. Are we okay with this? Now, it's asking you for your y-intercept. Or in this case, it's the p-intercept because it's Pn. How would you find your y-intercept or your p-intercept in this case? Convert into standard form. Why do we convert into standard form? Because the standard form gives me the y-intercept. Okay? Good. So if I want to convert to standard form, what do I have to do? Huh? Expand. How many of you remember that from lesson number 1? Remember, we have to write this twice. Yes? Because it's n minus 7 squared, so I have to write it twice, plus 10.8. So to expand, what do I do first? FOIL. N times n is n squared. N times negative 7 is negative 7n. Negative 7 times n is negative 7n. And negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49 plus 10.8. I'm going to multiply the negative 0.3 in, so I'm going to distribute the negative 0.3 in, and then I'm going to collect all my like terms together, just so I don't do too many steps, okay? So if I multiply the negative 0.3 in, I get the following. So negative 0.3n squared plus 2.1 n plus 2.1 n, and then negative 14.7 plus 10.8. I'm going to collect my like terms. So my first term doesn't have any like terms, so I'm going to write it as is. Yep. This step, I multiplied the negative 0.3 into each term just inside the bracket. Okay? Plus 4.2n, and then that is negative 3.9 if I subtract these two.
Does that say plus 2.1n?
Yes. Because negative 0.3 times negative 7, that's 2.1. Okay? What is your y-intercept? 3.9 or negative 3.9? Negative 3.9. Okay? So that means, what was their profit? Negative 3,900. So their profit, their initial profit is negative $3,900. What does that mean? If you are making a profit of negative 3,900, you're losing $3,900. When am I losing this money? When I sell how many chocolate bars? Okay, look here. This is the y-intercept, right? This is where the y-intercept is. I'm going to go up, and I'm going to come back down. How many chocolate bars would the y-intercept present? 0. That's my initial profit before I sell any chocolate. To buy the chocolate, I need to pay money, don't I? Or to make the chocolate, I need to pay money, right? So this is my initial profit. I'm paying the money from my own pocket. It's like you went to Costco, right? You want to have a whatever sale, okay? You want to sell a chocolate bar to people. You went to Costco, you bought your chocolate bar box. You paid it from your own pocket. So now you are down $200. Once you sell them, you start making money, right? Until you reach a point where you break even, right? Where whatever you paid, you got back. And then anything you sell on top of this is extra money for your own pocket. Does that make sense to you? Same thing is happening here. Initially, I'm paying from my own pocket. I'm losing money. So my initial profit is negative $3,900. That's when I sold 0 chocolate bars so far. Right? The difference between what we have here and Costco, when you go to Costco, it's a linear relation, right? Because you're getting $2 or whatever. But when it comes to production, right, or making the money, right, making the chocolate bar, it's gonna be quadratic. So you're gonna reach a point where you're gonna make your maximum amount of money, but then after that you're gonna have to buy more machines, hire more people, I don't know, so it's gonna cost you less and less. Okay? It's not gonna cost you, it's gonna profit you less. So when I'm asked for the y-intercept, that means my x value is 0. What? Why did we stop here? Because that's a standard form. And the standard form gives me the y-intercept. Right? Yes? Guys, I think I've said that way too many times so far, and you guys, it's not clicking. I don't know how it's going to click, but let's put it there in your brain that always, whenever I'm asking you for the y-intercept, right, the x value is 0. So there's another way that I could have solved this. I could have just plugged in 0 for n and then find my math, did bad maths. Okay? Why didn't we do that? Because anyway, I'm going to have to do it right here where I have to expand. So mine as well. Okay? But another way to do this is to plug 0 for n and solve for p. Because I'm looking for the y-intercept. And always the y-intercept x or n is equal to 0. I'm just going to rewrite this in a, so the initial profit is a loss of $3,900. Good morning. Now, what are the zeros?
Negative 3.9. Never mind. No. It's like 1 or something.
Don't guess, please.
Positive 7 something.
Zeros. What form does it have to be in for me to find the zeros? Factored form. If you look at this graph, where are the zeros? somewhere here, and somewhere here, right? These are my zeros. Okay? My vertex is at 7. Right? Yes? Okay. I need to find my zeros, so that means I need to put my equation in factored form. Factored form. You guys have to be able to jump from one form to the other. You need to learn. This is what we've been doing. We've been learning how to do it. Now we have to put it all together. So I have this. It's in standard form. I have to use the standard form for me to be able to factor. What's the first thing I have to do when you're factoring? Look for greatest common factor. Because I have negative 0.3, I'm going to check if negative 0.3 can be divided by each term. Okay? 90% or 99.9%, if I give you something like this, it will be divisible. Okay? So if you divide 4.2 by 0.3, you're going to get 14. So that's a whole number. Good. If I divide 3.9 by 0.3, that's also going to be a whole number, and it's going to be 13. Okay? So that means negative 0.3 is my common factor. So I'm going to divide everything by negative 0.3. So that's going to be n squared. 4.9 over negative 0.3, that's a negative 14n. Negative and negative makes positive. 3.9 over 0.3, that gives me 13. You see how beautiful this looks right now? Inside the bracket, they're all whole numbers. I can factor this. What am I looking for? Sum and product. Multiply to what? Add to what? Multiply to 13. Add to negative 14. Not too many options there. What is it? Both of them are positive? They're both negative. So it's negative 1 and negative 13. Negative 1 times negative 13, that gives me 13. Negative 1 plus negative 13, that gives me negative 14. Right? So my answer is so what's my break even? So sorry, what's my zeros? What are my zeros? So I set this equal to 0. So this is 1, and this is 30. So how many chocolate bars do I need to sell so I make 0 profit? To make 0 profit, I have to sell 1,000 chocolate bar and or 13,000 chocolate bar. That will be my 0 profit. Just, can I write the sentence here?